Hello, everybody, and welcome to Matt and Ben's Unfiltered, brought to you by Bella Construction. 27 years of experience, roofing, siding, windows, and doors. Bella Construction, where quality and affordability meet. Mark Madden, Tim Benz, along with you. Mark off today from his show on 105.9 The X. I'll be filling in, but you can get Mark here for the next half hour as we talk about the Penguins, the Steelers. Lots going on today, including, Mark, the reveal of the Steelers' Week 18 game against the Cincinnati Bengals, which will be at 8 o'clock on Saturday. So if the Steelers lose for a fourth week in a row, it'll be on prime time for the whole nation to watch again.
Yeah, I think it's dumb that it's Saturday night. I think the Dolphins, Broncos, and Bengals should all play at the same time. Kickoff should be simultaneous. I think that's the fair way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you can manage to get every team under the sun able to be locked up against each other and
That's
fill
not
all
every team under the sun, Tim. That's 3 games. It's easy to do.
Well, no, you got to worry about the NFC too, though, I'm saying.
Nah, you can do it. It's not hard. There's not that many teams in contention for the same spots.
Well, I know this. If the Steelers take the field at 8 o'clock, after the Ravens have already beaten the Browns, which we all assume will happen anyway, if that takes place, then you know they're just playing for the wild card at that point. And the big thing is they're playing to avoid going to Baltimore again. And for all the hullabaloo and all the talk all year long, they've got Lamar's number, they've got the Ravens' number. We'll see how important that is after just one loss. If that truly was the case, after just one loss, how much people are panicking if they lose this game and have to go to Baltimore again as opposed to going to Houston in all likelihood.
Tim, they ain't got nobody's number. No matter who the Steelers play from here on out, they should be very scared. And that includes Houston. People are talking like, oh, Houston's going to be an easy game if the Steelers go there. This team hasn't played well in a month. Ain't no easy games.
And by the way, for everybody who is watching or trying to watch, just go to the Facebook stream and then bounce over to YouTube because we are broadcasting right now exclusively on YouTube, the Facebook stream. For whatever reason, Facebook is down. So we're going on YouTube exclusively today, and you can comment on YouTube as well. Post your thoughts, post your opinions. Yeah, I don't think they're going to go much of anywhere, Mark. I mean, I think it is possible that they beat Houston because Houston is in the same state of affairs. But, you know, for all the talk about the Baltimore thing, it is funny to me how it evaporated after just one game and how much false bravado there was to that confidence, allegedly. If one game derailed all that, if one half basically derailed all that, we didn't mean it in the first place.
There's still lots of false bravado, Tim, like people talking about the game at Houston being potentially easy. People saying how maybe not winning the division is a blessing in disguise because you go to Houston. There's no substitute for a home game in the playoffs. This is all whistling past the graveyard. I think it's more apropos to think of what the Steelers have to do if they do lose out, if they do lose their next 2 games, if they do collapse yet again.
I think there are a lot of big picture issues afoot with the team, and everybody is dwelling on those because you lose 3 in a row, and everybody wants to, fire the coach, replace the quarterback, replace the defensive line, replace the coordinators, and we'll talk about that all offseason. They need some quick fixes right now. I mean, there's some granular stuff that they've just got to take care of. Like, they got to protect Russ better. They got to run the ball better without Russ doing it himself. They got to figure out how to get a friggin' offense off the field without relying on sacks and turnovers. And, Mark, to me, that's the biggest thing with them right now. If they don't get sacks, if they don't get turnovers, they don't know how to get a good quarterback off the field.
Yeah, but I don't know how you manufacture that sort of thing, Tim. Sacks, yes. Turnovers are organic. They just kind of happen. You can go try to punch out the ball all you want, but it's not that easy to do and doesn't always work.
Well, whatever it is, they got to force a few more punts. They got to force a few more 3-and-outs. If you look at the 3 good quarterbacks that they've faced, which Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, they all qualify. They're 3 of the best. If you want to put Hurts in a separate class, a little bit lower, fine, so be it, but he's a 2-time Pro Bowler. Now you got Joe Burrow coming to town, and Burrow's numbers since that Steeler game are the exact equivalent of the composite of those 3 Pro Bowlers that they just faced. So you're getting one more dose of the same thing that you just saw. So it's no wonder, really, Mark, that they're underdogs at home against the Bengals in the season finale.
Well, Burrow is arguably better than any of those 3 quarterbacks they just played. He's arguably the best quarterback in football. He's arguably the NFL MVP if he somehow gets the Bengals into the playoffs. But I think the guy who's really revolutionizing the quarterback position, Tim, is Kenny Pickett, Exodus Parish, and now with the Eagles. Did you see that throw where he kind of did a discus windup and then hurled himself and the ball straight to the ground? Now that's quarterbacking.
Now, I remember there's one play in Pittsburgh where Royal gave him grief for quote-unquote sacking himself, where he spun and turned into a ghost that wasn't there and just sacked himself. Well, this time he really did it in the act of throwing. I've never seen that before.
It was like the ball was super glued to his hand and he couldn't let it go.
Well, I was thinking that. With all the talk about him with his small hands, boy, he held on to that ball for a long time. Maybe that's part of the problem. He's got the stick 'em on the gloves or whatever that the receivers use, and the ball couldn't come out. I don't know what the issue was, but he spun himself into the ground trying to throw the football.
I'll tell you what the issue was, Tim. It was hilarious. That was the issue. What a bum. What a bum.
Yeah, the one he had afterwards was Micah Parsons hitting him in the ribs after his ribs were screwed up coming into the game in the first place. They knocked him out, and then the third-string guy came in and threw 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, Kenny Pickett stinks. He shouldn't be in the league, and he won't be much longer.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of Pitt fans that are now taking his performance before he got hurt and suggesting that the Steelers never should have let him go in the first place.
What performance was that? He was like 10 of 15 for 150 yards. It was a typical nondescript Kenny Pickett stat line.
Well, that's what I thought, but I think it's conflated with Russell Wilson having lost 3 games in a row now. Although I'd put Russ, he hasn't been great. He hasn't been what he was. I think we're seeing who Russ is when he faces better competition, but he's certainly down the list of issues that they've got.
I think Kenny Pickett would not have lost these 3 games. I think he would have lost the first 2, been benched for the third, refused to dress as the backup.
Well, you know, speaking of which, Mason Rudolph and Mitch Trubisky both threw touchdowns yesterday, too. Even Mitch. Did you see Mitch's touchdown? If you want to talk about comical with Kenny spinning himself into the ground, Mitch threw a pass that might have gotten back to the line of scrimmage, and then some guy took it 69 yards to the touchdown, just weaving through traffic of the Jets, who might be the biggest train wreck in football right now.
By the way, did you see who wants to talk to the Jets about being the next head coach?
Belichick.
Ryan.
He wants to go back.
Yeah, that's all they need is a celebrity coach thrown in the middle of that.
Well, I was listening to Fox Sports Radio yesterday on our AM side, and they were talking during their around the league thing about the Giants going after Belichick. Just pay the $1 million buyout that hits in the summer to North Carolina and get Belichick.
You mean, and Belichick would never coach there at all?
Right, exactly.
And he did that to the Jets, right?
Essentially, yeah.
I like it.
I mean, he could basically screw over the Jets by never going there and then go to the Giants by screwing over somebody else by not going there. Basically, all that deal does is guarantee him a job if he wants one, if nobody in the NFL comes calling. Although,
yeah, but are you counting out the Giants drafting Sanders, then signing Sanders to coach?
No, I'm not ruling that out. No.
I think that's more likely than Belichick going there. And you know what kind of coach the Jets need? Who was the jerk who used to coach the Jags? Coughlin. Tom Coughlin?
Yeah,
that's the kind of coach they need.
And he won Super Bowls with the Giants before that. So
yeah.
But at any rate,
but nobody wants to play for him until he wins.
Well, there's lots of coaches like that, but I mean, if you're asking me stylistically if that's what they need, then yeah, that could be Belichick too. I just don't know who Belichick is anymore. I don't know who Belichick is as a coach.
I think Belichick will turn out to have gone soft. I think guys like Coughlin never go soft. He's dead, I think, right?
Did he die?
I don't know. I mean, he's real old. He can't coach. Neither can Belichick.
According to what I'm seeing, he's 78 years old. So
bring him back then. No problem.
All right. So what about the Steelers then moving forward, Mark, this week against the Bengals? They're underdogs. Should they be?
That's wild, isn't it? That they're underdogs at home?
Yes, they're underdogs at home.
To a team beneath them in the standings that they beat earlier this year.
That they put 44 points up against, yes.
They're going to need every bit of those points this Saturday.
Well, I think with the Bengals' ability to score, that was a crazy game. Did you watch the game against the Broncos on Saturday?
Yeah, I was sick in my hotel room in New York, so I had nothing else to watch.
What a comedy of mismanagement and errors that was.
But still a very compelling game.
Oh, it's compelling. Yeah, the way things got screwed up down the stretch between the missed field goals and the clock mismanagement and things like that, the inability for the Broncos to finish the job, like to allow the Bengals to stay. I think it's a very easy case to make. In fact, I would wholeheartedly agree with this, that the Bengals are the best of the remaining teams that could get in as the last wild card. They just have to have the most things happen for it to take place. They have to beat the Steelers on the road. They got to have Denver lose to a Kansas City team that has nothing to play for. And then they also need the Dolphins to lose. I can't remember the Dolphins play. The Jets? They play the Jets next, I guess. They got to play.
The Bengals would be the most dangerous of those teams if they got in the playoffs.
Yes, for sure. Because, like, if you're Buffalo, and especially if it's not snowy and awful and Burrow can throw the ball around, if they got them in a 2-7 matchup, I think that's the least desirable opponent for the Bills to play. Don't you think?
Absolutely. If I'm Burrow, though, I was watching that game. The defense is letting up, immediate comeback drives, in like 90 seconds. The field goal kicker can't hit a kick to win the game. If I'm Burrow, I'm thinking, you sons of bitches, I'm out here by myself. What are you doing?
It's one of those things where it's sort of like through his absence, sometimes you'll see guys like rise up. It's like basically George Pickens. George Pickens probably made himself a lot of money by not playing for 3 weeks because we saw how bad it was without him in the Steelers' offense. Burrow kind of makes a case for himself as MVP every time he's on the sideline, and somebody has to do something on defense for the Bengals, and they never do it.
There is no player in the league, no quarterback, no any position, who has to bail out his team as often as Joe Burrow and who does it successfully as often.
All right, so we want some comments from everybody on the NFL, on the Steelers, on their state of affairs. By the way, Mike Tomlin is speaking today for his press conference. They usually do it on Tuesday, but because they moved everything up to Saturday and the Steelers play on Saturday night at 8 o'clock, they're going to have Tomlin speak today. So whatever he's got to explain over the past 3 weeks, hopefully he's had enough time to cook it up and doesn't need another day. But I think
it'll be the biggest bunch of horse manure ever. The more they lose, the deeper it gets.
Well, they were just exposed, Mark. What it is they were exposed. They played 3 of the best teams in football, and now we know who they are. They're nothing better than at best a team that might go to Houston and win a wild card game. And you know what? If they back into this, I suppose it's unlikely that they lose every game in the last 4 and then have to go to Houston. And that situation, that eventuality, probably they're the 6th seed and the Chargers are the 5, and the Chargers get the benefit of going to Houston. Then they just go to Baltimore again, and I don't know who would pick the Steelers to win in Baltimore.
Even though the Steelers have had that recent mastery over the Ravens, the last game duly noted when they lost, I don't know how anybody could pick them to regain their momentum and find any sort of form after losing out in the regular season, after losing 4 straight.
You even brought up the prospect, Mark, of, as we talked about this a little bit during the podcast, the concept of who this guy is on defense that everybody is fixating on. Who's the guy?
The Stooge.
Yes, the Stooge, right? You brought it up in that 70s show terms.
Right, the Stooge. Who's the Stooge?
I don't care who the Stooge is. Like, to me, this is the world's biggest smokescreen. This is the ultimate, Pittsburgh fan, Pittsburgh media red herring to throw out there so we can blame one guy. And in this case, everybody seems to want to fixate on Cam Sutton because it's so incredibly convenient. He's the guy who left, who didn't work out where he went, came back, had the issues off the field. So he's an easy guy to target. He's an easy guy to throw shade at because, well, it's got to be his fault. That's the most easy narrative in the world to concoct to make all their problems go away.
Tim, I do care who the Stooge is. I care deeply. And here's how much I care. When Tomlin's talking, I'll be watching Ipswich and Chelsea.
All right, so here's the deal. You can comment on YouTube. Like I said, we're not on Facebook today. We had a Facebook glitch right as soon as we came on for whatever reason. I think Facebook is down or something. So we're just
on Facebook. How do they know to go to YouTube?
Hopefully they figured it out, and I'm just telling them that they can comment on YouTube so people can put their comments up on YouTube.
Either that or we're talking to absolutely no one.
Hey, that's what we can always post it later, and you can comment later as well. So
no,
we're on
YouTube. I'm good. I'm just saying there's that possibility.
What about the Penguins, Mark? You went to the game last night, and you were trying to go to the game in Queens, but you got sick, right?
Yeah, I got some kind of 24-hour bug. It still lingered a little bit afterwards, but like, it wasn't quite that I didn't feel good enough to go to the game at Queens. It was like, it wouldn't have been advisable in terms of what might have happened.
I gotcha. Yeah, and you were going as a fan too, right? You weren't in the press box?
I was in the press box.
You weren't going to be in the press box. Okay.
Come on, I'm going to freeload.
Well, there you go. That's probably the way to do it.
I paid like $250 to go see Hamilton. I'm gonna take a free seat in the press box when I can.
All right, remind me, we got to get your Hamilton review here on Unfiltered. We got on the podcast.
There was no press box at Hamilton.
Well, what about a box like, where Lincoln sat when he watched the play?
I was right below it. If John Wilkes Booth would have shot whoever, he would have jumped onto me.
Did you ever finish watching the John Wilkes Booth, the series on Netflix?
Yeah, of course. It was great.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was pretty good, actually.
Yeah, I thought that was one of the better series. You know what else I rewatched in my sickness?
What's that?
I watched the last 3 episodes of The Sympathizer. Did you ever watch that?
No, I don't know that one.
HBO miniseries about a guy who was in the South Vietnamese army, but was really working as a North Vietnamese spy.
No, I haven't seen that one.
It's really good. Really good.
Juror number 2 is the one that everybody keeps telling me about that I have to watch. Juror number 2.
What's that about? About OJ?
No, I think it's something about like, I don't want to give away spoiler alerts too much, but a guy is on a jury and he thinks he might be involved in the case and might have an intricate knowledge of what went on in the case.
Oh my God. He's the Stooge.
He's the Stooge. Yes, exactly.
Oh my God. It's everywhere.
He's Cam Sutton. Well, maybe that's a bad thing to bring up. He could be the Cam Sutton of the Netflix world. How about that?
There you go.
All right, let's get to the Penguins then for the 2 games against the Islanders, whether you were there or not.
I didn't see amazingly, the Islanders game at Queens was not on TV in New York.
That's not amazing. Crap like that happens with their cable systems all the time.
Well, because they have a million teams and a million games.
And a million different deals, yeah.
Yeah, so the Brooklyn Nets were on. So I watched The Sympathizer. But last night, I mean, the big thing about the Penguins is they're very fundamentally sound right now. They're good in the defensive zone, good in neutral zone, good on the PK, good on the power play. All the stuff the teams, well, the Penguins anyway, might not feel they have to master when they're really cooking, the Penguins are doing well. And one thing I didn't like that has worked out exponentially, splitting Sid and Gino up on the power play, which I figured would be temporary. But they're up to 7th in the league now on the power play. And the reason is, with them 2 on separate power plays, they simplify everything. They don't feel the need to give each other touches. The star power is diminished. The power play acumen is increased. So it's worked out terrific.
Yeah, and it's also a matter of not deferring to the guy that you've been on the ice with for 18
what I mean.
years. Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Not deferring and, part of that translates, Mark. It's not just try to do like Sid doing something to set up Gino or Gino doing something to set up Sid. By that point, if you're out there with Michael Bunting and Ricard Raquel and some of these other guys that got surrounded, they're just going to take it over on their own. They're just going to – everybody feels the need to set them up, which is probably the better way to go.
Yeah, and Bunting's been a revelation, not just on the power play. There's a guy who's not a goal scorer, but he scores goals. He might get 25, Tim. He really might. Yeah,
and I think he's kind of found himself. We were pretty impressed with what he did over the last 10 games of last year. It didn't translate to the start of this year. He's been better of late. He's been part of the charge that they've been on. That's probably a strong word, but they're better play of late. And now I think, where are they, Mark? About a point out? They're a point? Yeah, because Ottawa's at 40 points. They're at 39. So they're a point out.
Okay, Ottawa must have won last night then, right?
Yeah, and Tampa Bay's got 42 points. And Tampa's in the first wildcard spot, but they've played, 4 fewer games already than the Penguins have played 38. So,
oh no, don't get me wrong. The Penguins are not in good shape. In fact, if you're looking at it as I do, that losing would be better to get more balls in the lottery. I mean, there are people I know who are big-time Penguin supporters who are just totally confounded and upset by them having this run. Because it's not what's best for the team. It's not what's best for the franchise.
Well, Dubas spoke during the Flyer game, on Monday night after we last spoke before the holiday, and he was talking about it's the same old thing, Mark, about like trying to live in two worlds at once, which is almost
But
impossible to do.
You can't do that. They've proven for how many years now you can't do that.
Right. That's what I'm saying. But he's sort of underscoring that's where they are, and that's what they're trying to do.
Well, they can't. Won't work.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's nearly impossible to try to build for the future while at the same time trying to win now when the team needs as much help as humanly possible to win now. Like if you really do want this team to try to do something in the playoffs, you're going to have to try to acquire. And if you're going to acquire, you have to give away future assets.
Well, nobody's a bigger fan of Sid than me. But the notion you keep after trying to compete for Sid's sake, there's going to be a team here after he retires. And if you really want Sid to have another shot at a cup, they should trade him because there's no realistic shot for him to win one here. Now, if he just wants to stay to be a career Penguin, as I think, that's okay. But plenty of career Penguins, maybe not quite as good as Sid, but plenty of career Penguins went through bad stretches and lived with it. You know, it's just where the team is at right now.
Last hockey thought, Mark. Sidney Crosby as a playmaker versus Mario Lemieux as a playmaker, as a setup guy, as an assist guy since Sid passed Mario. I mean, we always talk about how many goals Mario would have scored if he was completely healthy his whole career. How much higher would that assist number have been given the talent that he was around and the era in which he played versus Crosby?
Well, Sid made mention of that afterwards. I said to Sid, well, you're way better than him, right? And he said, yeah, right. He goes, he played a lot less games. But, well, I think Mario was better than Sid at everything in the offensive zone. And that's no knock on Sid. And that includes playmaking. I think Sid's a superior player in the other half of the ice. I think Mario would be actually pleased that I said that. But to look at it overall, Mario is a better player than Sid. The gap is a lot more narrow than I ever thought it would turn out to be.
When you say everything in the offensive end, would you include their work without the puck? Because I might actually give Sid the nod there in the offensive end.
Well, in terms of forechecking, you know, and trying to battle for the puck, maybe. But Mario moving off the puck to get open and ultimately make plays, he was the best at that.
Especially on the power play, setting himself up.
Period, Tim. He like, there's a guy, he's a 6'4" gargoyle who's the biggest threat on the ice. And he would pop up open all the time. And that's because he worked to get open.
All right, let's get to some comments, then we'll get to Mark's review of Hamilton. Brian says, Steelers have 1/5 of their salary cap tied up in Watt and Hayward. Isn't this a stupid philosophy? It's not working. Well, we talked about that a little bit on the podcast. What was the potential deal you threw out there, Mark, for Watt? 2 1s and a 2?
I would trade him for 2 1s, but I think you could get a little bit more, yeah. And I think if you don't win a playoff game this year, that's the logical thing to do.
The reason I go for something like that now is because then whoever you're trading him to would be responsible for the next contract, or at least most of it, not you.
Yeah. I mean, Tim, this team is nowhere close to winning a Super Bowl. Nowhere remotely close. I kind of got that idea when they got routed 3 weeks in a row by superior teams. So now with a lot of their core aging, I mean, Cam, TJ, Russ, if you consider him part of the core, you got to look to the future, but they never do. Tim, that's my fear for the Penguins. The Penguins are in the mushy middle. Finish last a couple times, you can get out of it. But the longer you're in the mushy middle, the harder it is to extract yourself because then there's long-term damage to be undone.
Brian also wants to know why you're wearing a Canadian shirt.
Oh, that's my mistress team. Always
it's your second favorite team. You've said that a number of times over and over, like on the show, on the radio show.
Second favorite hockey team, mostly because of the logo and the jerseys, yeah.
And all the winning that they did for decades upon decades.
In the 70s, when the Penguins were, only sporadic playoff participants, yeah, it was easy to follow the Canadians. And I really got taken by them when I was 10. And the Bruins were the best team. They had won the Cup in 1970. And in 70-71, they called Ken Dryden up, and he only played a few regular season games. But he played in the playoffs, and they upset the Bruins in the first round and won the Stanley Cup. And I was really taken by that. That was awesome. Also part of it was I saw Dryden's first game ever. It was in December of 1970 at the arena. which actually, when I told him that, it got him to come on my Between Periods radio show at the arena once. He was in town with Toronto as the president. I said, Mr. Giant, can you come on my Between Periods radio show? And he goes, well, I don't normally do that sort of thing. And I go, hey, right down there. He goes, what? I pointed at the guys. I go, first game, late December 1971. I saw it right down there. He goes, okay, what time do you need me?
That's a good story. And, well, gosh, he was on the 1980 call with Al Michaels, right?
Yep, sure was. He might have been the best goalie ever. Might have been.
Robert says Houston beat them 30-6 last year with patchwork offensive line that included Kendrick Green. That's not a guaranteed win at all. No, it isn't. It's not guaranteed, but I can guarantee that they're not going to go to Baltimore and win.
Yeah, the thing with Houston is they've kind of struggled a bit. I mean, I think C.J. Stroud's an excellent quarterback, all right? But he's had a little bit of a sophomore slump. Isn't that fair to say?
Yeah.
He ain't bad, but he's, not as good. But if that game was to take place today, I would bet on Houston.
Also wanted to throw in this one from Brian, who said, going back to our conversation about the communication issues, he says, well, Patrick Queen wears the green dot. One of the most a rare thing from Hard Knocks that was actually like football-worthy conversation, Mark, was when they had that clip of Tomlin telling Queen, over-communicate, be communicative today. And he sort of said, okay, and then he kind of shot back a little. They've got to communicate too. Now, I don't know who they was, but that was like an actual moment of revelation from Hard Knocks, which is rare. But, of course, they just let it sit there and didn't do anything about it.
Patrick Queen might be the stooge.
Maybe he is. I don't know. Like I said,
I think Patrick Queen's been very disappointing. He has lacked big plays, and I've never seen a linebacker play as unphysical. Even when he does tackle, it's very dainty.
Well, all I know is with all this conversation about who the guy is that they're mad at, and I don't know that it's one guy. I mean, I feel like it could be Queen talking about Elliott.
Tim, there's only one stooge.
And Elliott, well, I mean, they all might have their own stooge in their own mind. Like Queen might be talking about Elliott. Elliott might be talking about Minka. Minka might be talking about Cam.
Tim,
might be talking about TJ.
They better narrow it down because there's only allowed to be one stooge.
Alex says Burrow should be MVP. Bengals wouldn't be in the discussion without him. How do you see the debate of a successful season for the Steelers? Is it a failure even if they beat Houston? All they do is check a box if they beat Houston. They've made no progress.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Especially if they feel like they have to start over the quarterback position. If they don't keep Russ, or if they do keep Russ.
Oh, Tim, let me tell you a few things that are happening this offseason no matter what. No matter what, okay? They're keeping Tomlin. They are signing Russ long-term for $30 million a year. They will extend T.J. Watt because he's time for an extension, right?
Yes, it would be time for an extension, yes.
Yeah, they will do all those things, none of which they should.
This is coming from Jay Groh. He says, could the Steelers rest their starters? No, I don't think you avoid. I don't think you avoid a chance to maybe go to Houston instead of Baltimore if you really want to win a playoff game.
And I don't think this team, obviously, it's not playing well enough to pile staleness on top of crap.
They need a good performance, is what you're saying.
They need to perform. Yeah, they need. Tim, I've settled for an adequate performance. If they put together an adequate performance and at the 50-yard line after the game revealed who the stooge was, I'd be happy with that.
Beer Mall says Tom is going to find out about splash plays and style points today. He's careened this team into an expired generic container of sour cream. Season's over.
That's very descriptive.
I never heard of generic container of sour cream, but I like it. I might have to use that today on the show for you, Mark. I like that.
Feel free.
Real quick, Mark.
I'll be watching. By that time, I'll be watching. Man United's playing somebody. I forget.
I've been just told here on the comments, do not worry about juror number 2. It's bad. Don't listen to the reviews. Almost like an after-school special for people who have no idea how the U.S. jury system works. Okay.
Well, I still haven't watched is Cobra Kai's last season.
Oh, you're behind on that, huh? That's usually a favorite of yours.
No, I didn't like the last season very much. It went on too long.
What'd you think of Hamilton for the first time, Mark? I've seen it twice. I liked it much better the second time. What'd you think of the first time watching it?
The problem I have with musicals is I can't make out all the lyrics. I wish I had a lyric sheet. But it was very good, very entertaining, very like the scene where his son dies in the duel, very poignant. It was just great. I can't say enough good about it.
I would suggest for anybody, this is sort of along the lines of what you're talking about. Just read up, not just read up on the history of like Aaron Burr and Alexander Hamilton, but read up on the musical. Read some of the lyrics before you hear them, because it's not just musical lyrics. Like, they're rapping and they're doing it fast, and it's kind of hard to keep up.
Yeah, that's my second Broadway show. I saw Spam-A-Lot last year, so I'm late to the Broadway party, but I really like it. I'll probably go to a show a year as long as I can. It was right across the street from the Richard Rogers Theater where they had Hamilton.
What's that?
New York Scientology Center.
Oh, I have heard about that. Yeah.
I almost joined.
Was Tom Cruise there? Was he trying to recruit you?
He was there. I'd have joined. Tim, I need something.
You could be the stooge of Scientology.
I need something. I know that.
All right, so Mark's off today. Mark, you're back the 3rd, you said. Is that right?
What day's today?
Today is Monday, the 30th.
30, 31 is Tuesday, 1 Wednesday. I'm back the 2nd.
Back the 2nd. All right, so
Yes.
Mark will be back 2 days in advance of Steelers-Bengals. I'm in today, and then I think Tom is in tomorrow, and then it's New Year's, and Mark is back. So be listening to 105.9 The X and listen to the Mad Monday podcast. I've got that posted already.
I got to be honest, Tim. I can't wait till this friggin' football season wraps up. It's just overkill. This college playoff pushed football over the edge in terms of being intolerable. And you got the friggin' guy who played 9 years of college football.
Yeah, where's he again?
Miami, I think.
Oh, that guy. Yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah. He was in the Pop-Tarts Bowl, right? Weren't you watching the Pop-Tarts Bowl?
I don't know. He's a loser who can't get a job, who wanted to stay away from work, I should say. He followed his dream. Yeah, if his dream was to not work, mission accomplished.
I've been telling you, I've been wrestling with the debate that we had on the podcast all night long as to whether or not I really do want to go with cinnamon as my favorite Pop-Tart, or if I want to go with cherry with the confetti sprinkles on top.
Oh, not cherry. No. The cherry flavor's too sweet.
Oh, yeah. What is a Pop-Tart?
No, it's over the top sweet. That's why brown sugar cinnamon's the best, because it has that kind of like cut sweetness. You know what I mean?
A little spice to vary it up.
I think, and I'll tell you what, I wouldn't sleep on the frosted strawberry, or they have a birthday cake one too now, I think.
Oh, I've never had that.
That's not bad either.
All right, so Mark is back on the 2nd, so make sure you check him out there and listen to the Mad Monday podcast. It's up. I'm going to replay part of it today on 105.9 The X. Have a good day, everybody. We'll talk to you next week after the Bengal game.